Hey, spawktalk. Before I get into any of this, I just want to say I have seen a few of your vids, and I think you generally do a pretty good job. But I disagree with your position on borders. I don't really think we need closed borders. I think open borders probably be better. But for this first video, I'm probably going to do more than one video on this. But this is just the first. I guess this is going to be my response to your vid, and yeah, I'm going to be upfront. It's not going to be a scientific video. It's just going to be anecdotal. And so I would make the same point that Fringe Elements made, which was that, again, this is anecdotal. When I've spoken to fellow Hispanics, they tend to be pretty open-minded to the ideas of libertarianism or quote-unquote liberal ideas. And even on social conservatism, although they do tend to be social conservatives, especially the older people, I've found that the people my age, that I was going to school with anyways, where I'm from, tended to be a little, more open to changing their minds on it, and even the ones who were bigoted against gays and such, by the time they got to, high school, or high school seniors or juniors, most of them had changed their minds at least somewhat, and because of their interactions with gay people, and they saw that, not all gays are hating on me or something like that. But, I think over time they'll probably integrate more. And if you go to, I think, reason.tv, there's a video you can look for by Jason Riley, and he has a book. I think it's, if I remember correctly, it's called Let Them In, the Case for Open Borders. Anyway, so on reason.tv you can find like a 30-minute video where he discusses like the info he came across in authoring this book. And so one of the things was that over time immigrants tend to integrate into society, and this is no different for Hispanic immigrants, namely Mexican immigrants. And the same thing was said, of course, there for Jews, Germans, and Italians, if I remember correctly, or was it Irish, something like that. But anyways, basically the same old tired arguments today are the same old tired arguments of the past. They were wrong then, and the data shows that they're probably wrong now. The reason it looks like a lot of Mexicans don't integrate into society is because we're, in the middle of an immigration wave, basically. We have a lot of immigration right now, and this has always made it such that anyone who's looking at immigrants, well, they see the new immigrants coming in that are causing some problems and troubles. Excuse me. But of course, they don't see the immigrants that are not causing, problems and troubles, because they don't ever hear about them. Right? So, because think about it, right? It logically makes sense. If someone is not causing a spectacle everywhere, they're not really going to make news stories. But anyways, so another thing is that I think as well as they integrate. Oh, another thing I wanted to say. You can't just look at it from the point of view of what percentage of the immigrants are currently integrated, because we're constantly getting new immigrants, right? So there's an inflow of new immigrants. So if you were to mathematically model this right here, you could see how it would affect this. Anyways, but so the thing to look at is how immigrants adjust to society over time, and so in the studies that follow the same people over time, it shows that they actually do okay at integrating into society, and the ones that do come here already, compared to the population of their homeland anyways, have more quote-unquote American values, and such as supporting markets and being a little more socially liberal. And the thing is that I also think that over time, as they get more educated, the more liberal they'll get, and not just in the modern sense of the word liberal, but in the sense of having to do with human freedom. And so this is one of the few benefits I see of public education. But of course, I think as a whole system, completely private education would probably make education more affordable, including to those at the bottom. But anyways, that's another topic. So yeah, I think that over time people will begin to see this change. And as for the Libertarian Party supporting open borders and not gaining Hispanic votes because of that, I really think that's because the Libertarian Party doesn't really have a lot of exposure. And even if they were to get more exposure, they just always come off as being nut jobs to everyone. Even if other people, in the anti-states community agree with some of their ideas. I mean, let's face it, right? We're all looked at as nut jobs. But if let's say the Republicans were to change stances on open borders or closed borders, right? If they were to switch to the open borders position, well, then that would gain a lot more exposure for some ideas, including more, we'll call it market liberal ideas, in the sense of supporting a freer economy and so on. And so the Democrats currently have a hold on this, and on this open borders position, and I think a lot of Hispanics tend to go to the Democrats solely because of that, or at least maybe not solely, but I think it plays a big part. And I know when the immigration thing came up back home when I was in vacation and stuff, that was really one of the big things that bugged some people. And so yeah. Another thing is that suppose we do have open borders, that doesn't mean that everyone has to gain citizenship automatically. It might be the case that you could have a policy in which you have open borders, meaning no restrictions on immigration, but that you would still have to, wait the same amount of time and pass the same test to become a citizen. You could have all sorts of immigrants coming in, but instead of getting citizenship, they could just have legal residency, which means they wouldn't be able to vote. And so your fear that they would vote for a more stateless society could be, curtailed. So another way is that as far as the welfare state and so on, one policy some people might want to advocate is to make it such that all immigrants must live within the country for whatever many number of years before they are even eligible for welfare. And so that would also mitigate the drain on resources. Another thing is that as far as immigration restrictions concerned, we all know the state fails. Right? We know that it fails compared to the market, and so I don't really see. I don't think that's a good assumption to make, but we have a reasonable expectation considering all of the other things that it fails at. That does a worse job at than the market. So I really don't see any reason to put faith in the state for calculating the optimal rate of immigration. And I think that's one hole in your video that I saw when you were saying how, yes, I would prefer the state to do something than not to have it done at all. I agree with that statement, but that's not our those are not our only two choices. There's other choices there's other things you could support and advocate. Now, suppose there was no immigration restriction. Well, for in the past, we have had times in which there was no immigration restriction, and like I said before, a lot of the same arguments you're using were used against immigrants in the past. So I think it's a matter of how well they integrate, and again, I think over time they'll begin integrating, and the data shows that they are doing a pretty good job of integrating over time. It's just that we keep getting more new immigrants. And so, obviously that affects the things that people see. When they see an immigrant that, changes lanes without using their turn signal, or goes, whatever, 35 in a 50-mile-an-hour speed zone or whatever, then obviously they notice that. When an illegal immigrant gets drunk and hits someone, people notice that they're an illegal immigrant, right? But they don't see, right? It's like the seen versus the unseen, right? They don't see all of the immigrants that are not causing problems. And so I just think that's important to keep in mind.